I'm going to be using Halloween Ends to I'm going to be using Halloween Ends as evidence to prove that Michael Myers is supernatural. I am not going to be using any of the other films in the franchise. I'm going to save that for a separate video, but in this video, I just want to focus on Halloween Ends because I feel like this movie has really caused the Halloween fan base to be it's really divided the fan base, and it's really hated by a lot of people. I hated it when I first seen it. After some time, I don't hate it anymore. I've warmed up to it a little bit. I think it's done some things that I really liked, so now I'm kind of in the middle, like 50-50. I don't really hate it, but I don't love it either. But I'm just going to be using this film for the various pieces of, I guess you could say, evidence that I want to use to support my argument. Okay, so a lot of people in the Halloween community, this is something that's been going on for a long time. This is nothing new, all right? So the whole supernatural argument, right? Before I start, let me just say that a lot of people hated Rob Zombie's Halloween films, right? Personally, for me, I didn't have a problem with those films because I appreciated every version of Michael Myers, and I think that every continuity is I like every continuity because I feel like every version of Michael Myers has their own unique feel to them. But what is the reason why people hate the Rob Zombie's Halloween? What is the main reason why people hate Rob Zombie's Halloween films? Because they made Michael Myers human, right? They took away the mystical, supernatural edge, or you could say the supernatural aspect of Michael. That's why people didn't like Rob Zombie's Halloween, because they humanized Michael too much, right? Now, if you look at Halloween Ends, the same thing kind of happens because Michael is tired and he's weak, he's weakened, and he's beaten, right? And he's all like, decrepit in the sewer, which doesn't make any sense because of what he endured in the last film and how many years it's been since that film. It kind of doesn't make any sense for him to be weak now, and it actually doesn't make sense for him to even be alive if they wanted to go that type of direction with humanizing Michael, right? So I know this doesn't make any sense because of the title of the video and everything, but just let me get to the point, all right? Let me get there. The thing is this. People did not like Rob Zombie's Halloween because they humanized Michael. But at the same time, everybody, a good majority of the community believes that Michael Myers is not supernatural. Now, I had a few arguments with friends, with people online, and more than a few, and people really get fucking mad at you when you try to say that Michael Myers is supernatural. It's almost like, everyone wants to... They get so offended if you say that Michael Myers is supernatural. And part of the reason why people take this, get offended over this stupid shit is because the Cult of Thorn duology, Halloween 5 and 6, that storyline is really trash. I'm going to be completely honest. It's pretty trash. I like those films. Don't get me wrong. I like Halloween 5. Actually, Halloween 5 and 6 are two of one of my favorite in the franchise. And, I don't really care what anyone thinks about those films. That's what I like, personally for me. So I could really care less about what anyone else thinks. But yeah, so these films really kind of, the whole Cult of Thorn thing, the concept was just executed terribly. It was awful. Like, the concept was so bad. I like the movies for other reasons, but let's just be honest. The whole Cult of Thorn thing was really not thought out, and it was kind of just thrown in there. If they really gave it more time and, actually put more time into that story, it could have been way better. But that's why people don't like the whole supernatural angle. And I'm here to tell you that it really has nothing to do with the Cult of Thorn stuff. I believe that Michael's always been supernatural. That's what I believe. And there's tons of evidence that, like I said, I'm going to cover in another video. But let me just start with Halloween Ends, okay? David Gordon Green says that Michael Myers is not supernatural. He says that he's human, right? So this is the argument that everybody pulls out of their ass when you say that Michael Myers is supernatural, or just in terms of the David Gordon Green trilogy, the 2018 trilogy in general. If you try to say that Michael Myers is supernatural in this trilogy, people will immediately say, well, the director said he's not supernatural, so that confirms it. No, it absolutely fucking does not. It does not confirm that Michael's not supernatural just because the director said that. Okay, let's say I break my ankle playing basketball, and I'm telling everybody I don't want people to know. Okay, so I just go around telling people, no, I'm just not playing because I feel sick, or I'm just not playing because I don't feel like playing today. Meanwhile, I have a broken ankle. It doesn't change the fact that my ankle is broken. Okay, just because this guy says that in his films Michael Myers is not supernatural doesn't mean that it's fact that he actually isn't supernatural. Clearly what we're seeing is contrary to what he's saying, what David Gordon Green is saying, all right? So let me just put that out there, that anyone with common sense can see that, all right? Like, this is the first argument that people like to pull out. See, for in Halloween Ends, Michael's living in a sewer for 4 years after getting shot, after getting beaten with a baseball bat and stabbed multiple times, and getting beat down by a whole entire mob, right? He disappears for 4 years without any hospitalization. He doesn't get any treatment done. No one knows where he went. They're not even out looking for him at this point. I mean, I don't know if I think they were out looking for him, but they didn't find him. He just disappears. He crawls into a sewer, and he's in the sewer for 4 years, I guess, pulling people in and killing people to sustain his life. So that right there, right? I know what I just said is not fact, but hear me out. This movie is very ambiguous, and you have to kind of make these large leaps with your imagination to kind of make it make sense. And it reminds me a little bit of 1978, because that movie was also very ambiguous, and they didn't really explain anybody's motive in that film, or Michael's motive for that matter at all. But in this film, David Gordon Green kind of takes the similar approach, but he just does it just like amplified by like a thousand times, because nothing in this movie makes sense unless you make sense of it yourself. Okay, so he's pulling people into the sewer for 4 years straight, killing people. Why he doesn't kill the homeless man, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Maybe the homeless man was bringing people in, I don't know. But like I said, he's living in the sewer for 4 years, and he's alive. He's not dead. This guy is 60 plus years old. He's not dead at all. He's still alive. You know, to me, that does not seem like a person who's a human being. That seems like a person who's being fueled by some type of supernatural entity, or fueled by something, you know, like common sense. Once again, common sense. He's not just a human being. If I get shot, stabbed, and beat with a baseball bat at the age of 60, do you think that I'm going to be able to go off into a sewer for 4 years and just be alive and healthy and well? No. I'm probably going to need to go to the hospital. If not, I'm probably going to die from blunt trauma, or die from the blood loss. Okay? So that's just my first point. I know that point is very like obvious, but I wanted to put that out there, because the same way everybody wants to immediately go to the fact that David Gordon Green says that Michael Myers is not supernatural, that's the first counterpoint that I see a lot of people put out there, and that's the first counterpoint that I go to, is that, you know, people have been talking about this before Halloween Ends even came out. The theory videos were talking about this first, you know, way before the film was coming out. People were questioning, like, how the fuck is this guy still alive, and how is he like in the sewer still alive if he's not supernatural? You know, another YouTuber, shout out the Protagonist, he has a few videos on why he believes that Michael is supernatural as well, and I really resonate with his videos, because everything he says, I agree 1000%. I feel the same exact way about it that he does. So shout out to him. But you know, that's the point number one, is that it's just, that doesn't make sense at all. You know, come on, we know No one can survive that long in a sewer unless they were being powered by something else. Come on. That's definitely a supernatural hint right there. Now, point number two, as to why I think Michael Myers is definitely supernatural and why Halloween Ends confirms that Michael is definitely supernatural, okay? If Kills didn't confirm it for you guys, then at this point nothing will. And I think Halloween Ends definitely reinforced that, because point number two, Corey Cunningham, all right? So, okay. Now, I've been seeing from the community and from a few people. I listen to people here and there, and I like to watch videos about Halloween and things like that, because I just love horror films and I love the Halloween franchise. So I'm very in tune. I'm very kind of up to date on what's going on. I'm always online. I'm always researching. I'm always active, basically. So, I hear everybody saying that, well, not everybody, but majority people thinking that Corey Cunningham was not possessed at all by Michael Myers, right? Now, the thing is, Corey Cunningham, the way that he transforms as a character in this movie, I know it's a little bit cheesy, but the evidence is right here. When after he gets thrown off of the bridge, right, and Michael pulls him into the sewer, Michael hides behind a wall, and as Corey's walking out, he grabs his throat and he looks at him, right? So this is where people say, oh, Michael saw the same. It's a common theory that he saw the same evil in Corey that he had within himself. So essentially, right off the bat, that's saying that Corey's basically just as evil as Michael Myers was when he first got, I don't want to say possessed by the shape, but when he first, turned quote unquote evil, that Corey was in the same, he recognized himself in Corey. I'm going to tell you why that's bullshit, why that makes no sense at all. Number one, Corey did not kill Jeremy on purpose, okay? He did not kill Jeremy on purpose, and I highly doubt he even knew where Jeremy was standing at when he kicked the door open. Michael Myers killed his sister on purpose, all right, guys? He killed his sister on purpose. She didn't want to take him trick-or-treating, okay? Any kid would be mad. I'd be mad. I wouldn't kill my sister at all. I'd never do that, something like that. Like, that shit's batshit crazy, but she didn't want to take him trick-or-treating. She wanted to fuck her boyfriend instead. So he got mad, right? We don't know what happens or why he actually did that, but he stabbed her. However many times it was, forgive me, I forget, 50 times. Okay? Corey did not stab Jeremy 50 times, and Corey did not intentionally kill Jeremy, all right? Jeremy was just an asshole, okay? You could argue that Michael's sister was an asshole too, but then it just doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. How would Corey have the same evil that's in Michael Myers? He did not. Corey was not evil at heart, all right? Another thing here that is going to reinforce this, that's going to work in my favor here, is Jeremy's father says that when he looked at Corey on the freeway, that his eyes did not look like Corey. He said that kid that he saw was not Corey. He said the Corey that he knew was a good kid. He said when he looked into his eyes, he saw something different, like he was a whole other person, and it scared him, and he drove off the freeway instead of talking to him as soon as he looked at him in the car. All right. Laurie Strode says that she sees something different in Corey's eyes. She said she thinks that she saw Michael. Now, how in the world would she be able to say that she saw Michael in his eyes? Does that make any sense? Let's say she didn't know that he had an encounter with Michael, which I don't think she knew at this point. How would that correlation be there? How would that correlation between Michael and Corey be there if she didn't even know that he had encountered Michael or was in any interaction with Michael? So you're just telling me she sees a boy, right? She helps this boy out, and a couple weeks later, or the next day, or however many days it took place, she starts to see Michael in this boy's eyes. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is that Michael did something to Corey's soul, or he did something to Corey, and that would then make more sense because he did something to him which altered him, and that's why Laurie and Jeremy's father recognize that he's not the same Corey that he was before. Okay? That is my second point. My second point is that if Michael Myers did not do anything to Corey and that he's not supernatural, then why are other people saying that they see something different in Corey's eyes? And why are they saying that? Why is Laurie Strode saying that she sees Michael in his eyes? If anything, she could. The first thing she'd notice if it wasn't anything supernatural going on is that his clothing changed or his hair changed or he just seems a little bit more aggressive or he just seems a little bit different. She wouldn't say that she sees Michael in his eyes. Now, point number 3. After Michael looks into Corey's eyes, right, and we see the whole, through his eyes, we see Jeremy falling, I guess, down the 3 flights of steps and all that, and Michael lets him go. Corey goes straight home. Well, before that, he stabs the homeless guy out of self-defense. It wasn't really, I don't want to really say that was directly because of what Michael did to him, but I mean, it could be that because of what Michael did to him, it just kind of pushed him to do that in a way, But right after he stabs the homeless guy, he runs home. Corey Cunningham goes in the mirror. He takes off his shirt and he looks at himself. And when he's looking in the mirror, he's looking at himself almost as if he doesn't recognize himself. Here is the argument here. The argument here is that, well, he was fighting with the bullies above on the bridge, and at that point, he had rage and he had hate in his heart because he was sticking up for himself, for one, and he actually came at that one kid who doesn't know how to fucking change a tire to put a spare tire on a car, according to his fucking dad at the junkyard. But anyway, he's basically defending himself. He's sticking up for himself. And he gets thrown over the bridge, and he was actually supposed to die, but he ends up surviving. So you could argue that he had some bitterness or some rage in his heart, but that would not be enough to make that much of a drastic change here. Corey's looking in the mirror, and I don't know if the director, or I don't know if anyone, this was special effects done on Corey, but his eyes do look much darker than they were earlier on in the film. Like, his eyes look really dark, and he's looking into the mirror. And this is the part where I said it's kind of cheesy, because this is right after, like, he comes home from the encounter with Michael. He looks into the mirror and he starts acting weird and like rubbing his face almost as if he doesn't recognize who he is, And to me, that is a clear sign to me that there's definitely a transference that happened. I just don't see, I wonder how people can really watch this film with a straight face and say that there isn't anything supernatural going on, just because David Gordon Green said so himself. Like, it's clearly there's something supernatural going on here. It kind of reminds me of the same thing that happened with Jamie Lloyd at the end of 4. It kind of seems like they were going for that, but they just didn't execute it right. But for me, that scene right there where he goes home and he's looking into the mirror, that is another large piece of evidence that something changed within Corey. Something definitely changed within himself, all right? This was definitely some type of transference of power or a transference of the shape. My next point number 4, okay? This is going to be something really small that I kind of noticed, and I'm pretty sure if you watch the film, you probably noticed it too, but when Corey jumps off of the radio tower, he lands on the ground and he sits up exactly like Michael Myers. Now, I know that could have just been thrown in there for to be something funny, but I don't think so. I think the reason why he stood up exactly like Michael Myers does is because he is possessed by the same spirit or the shape that Michael Myers is possessed by, because he sits up exactly like him. So we have him sitting up exactly like Michael Myers. We have his eyes changing color and him not recognizing himself in the mirror. And we have Jeremy's father and Laurie Strode saying that they see Michael inside of Corey's eyes, all right? These are 3 things right here. Another thing to point out is that when here's kind of this is kind of a theory, so bear with me because I'm kind of using my imagination a little bit. Don't take this as fact when I say this, but hear me out on this theory, okay? So when Corey's on the bridge and he's coming at the bullies, right? And he's sticking up for himself, and he says to the other kid, you know, your father fucking hates you. And he pulls out the knife on the kid, and the dude slaps the knife out of Corey's hand, and it flies over the bridge. And then they have that back and forth, and then Corey gets thrown over. Keep in mind that in that scene, Michael Myers is not in the sewer. He's outside. If you pause or you play it in slow motion, that scene, you'll see Michael walking when it pans over to him on the ground, when he gets pulled by Michael. You'll see Michael walking actually towards the camera in the dark to the right side of the screen. He's outside. Michael hears all of this, okay? He's outside while this is going on. It's not like he's in the sewer. He's outside. So you mean to tell me that you don't think that Michael heard any of that? You don't think that he saw the knife fly over the bridge? Honestly, my theory here is that Michael Myers knew that he was getting old and that he couldn't, for whatever reason, keep this up anymore. He knew that he had to pass on the shape to somebody else. Who would be a better person to pass on the shape than a kid who was falsely accused of killing the kid he was babysitting, right? And a kid who had so much hatred and anger in his heart at that moment because of him getting bullied, all right? He pulled a knife out on that bully, all right? He pulled a knife out on them. I'm pretty sure that my theory is that he heard what was going on and he knew what was going on. And when they threw Corey, instead of Michael killing Corey, I feel like he knew that he had to infect Corey because Corey was the one that could carry on the legacy. That's what I think. I think Michael was pulling all those people in the sewer, and he's never seen anybody, he's never had anyone come down there that in a unique situation that Corey was in, to be honest with you. Because the homeless man even says, why did he let you go? He pulls people in there all the time. Why did he let you go? You know? So it's like, I think that he let him go because I feel like Michael intentionally infused Corey with the evil that was inside of his heart because he thought he was a good host. That's what I believe. And to me, that makes the most sense. And I don't care what anybody really thinks about it because to me, that's what makes the most sense, you know? I don't hate anybody for their opinion, but I'm just saying that it baffles me how many people still believe that Michael is not supernatural after seeing this movie. Like, clearly, I've given you guys multiple points on why this makes sense. Like, my points are pretty solid. Like, they're all pretty solid. I mean, especially the fact that, the fact that he goes home right away, he looks in the mirror and he doesn't recognize himself and he starts acting all strange. This happens right after his encounter with Michael Myers. Right after his encounter, And I just think that it makes perfect sense in the state that Michael was in for him to pass on that torch, as everyone seems to say, for him to pass on that torch. And he sees that Corey would be a good host, so he chooses him and he allows him to be the next carrier of the shape, because Corey is obviously perfect for that role. I mean, look at what happens to him before the encounter with Michael. I don't believe that it was just the right timing and that this just kind of made him go nuts, because Corey was never that type of kid. And I don't think that you can make I don't think you could change somebody's personality that much unless they already had it in them. And honestly, I don't think Corey had that in him. I think he was genuinely a good kid. I don't think he had that in him. To me, I just don't buy the fact that he had that in him. I buy more so the fact that this movie clearly is trying to show you that something happened after that encounter. It's not like they give you any type of hints to Corey being evil prior to that. He just gets mad and kicks the door open. It doesn't really mean that he was evil before that. So to me, I can't really buy that type of narrative that Corey had the evil inside of him and Michael just helped unlock it. I don't believe that. Another point. I think I'm on point number 4 or point number 5. I forget. Forgive me, guys. But another point I want to make is that when Corey goes to Dr. Mathis's house, right, to kill Dr. Mathis because he fucked over Allison, and I guess Allison told him, let me just say, actually, before that, Michael does follow Corey to Laurie's house. That is another thing right there I feel like people should note, because how in the world would Michael know where Corey's at unless he was able to see through Corey's eyes? And that's another thing that I'm kind of using my imagination to make it make sense. Is that, to me, what makes the most sense is that he is able to see through Corey's eyes, and he was able to kind of follow him there. Same thing goes for Dr. Mathis's place. I seen the memes and the jokes about Michael riding on the back of Corey's motorcycle. That's fucking hilarious to me. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that in this film because of how, much they fucking ruin things in it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. But anyways, like, I believe that the reason why Michael's able to follow him to Dr. Mathis's house and to Laurie Strode's house is because he does have some type of Bluetooth link with Corey, whatever that may be. It's just not explained, and he can definitely see through Corey's eyes. That's the way I see it. It makes sense, when you think about the fact that his eyes do not look like his own, but they look like Michael's eyes. So that's a theory that I have, and I'm sticking by that because that makes a lot of sense. And it also reminds me of Halloween 5 a little bit too, of the whole psychic connection going on with Jamie Lloyd as well. So yeah, I feel like David Gordon Green wanted to have his weird film too. I feel like he wanted to have a film that was weird, that he could call his own, and that he wanted to kind of have his own type of Cult of Thornish type of vibe film. That's what I think. And I think that the only reason why he's saying that Michael's not supernatural is so that it can keep the lore and keep people talking. Because if he were to say that, it wouldn't leave any opportunity for people like me to make videos, or for people in the community to talk about this back and forth and to have these in-depth discussions. So that's why I believe he said that. And back to my point with the whole, when Corey goes to Mathis's house, right, he's looking at his hand because his hand was fucked up from the glass that he broke with the chocolate milk, and his hand is slowly healing. Then when he's on top of the radio tower with Allison, he looks at his hand again, and she says infected, right? Because I guess his wound is infected or whatever, or it's healing. There's some type of weird healing factor going on. There's definitely some type of weird healing factor going on there. That's 100% supernatural. You're not going to sit here and tell me that that's not a supernatural thing, because that gives me supernatural vibes off the bat, with his hand just healing as Michael is killing the one nurse inside the house. Corey's looking at his hand, he unwraps the bandage, and his hand is healing. So I just feel like, I know this movie's hated a lot, and people don't really want to give it a chance to kind of like do any type of in-depth analysis because it's so hated. But I feel like if you actually pay attention to this movie and you watch it, and you actually pay attention to what's going on, there's definitely a supernatural thing going on in this film. That whole bandage thing is something that no one can deny, and you're not going to tell me otherwise, because how in the hell is your wound healing faster as Michael's killing someone? It just doesn't make sense to me. We have earlier before that, Michael kills Officer Doug Mulaney, and he starts standing up straight as if he gained some type of energy from that. And then after that, that's when we see Michael start to actually travel and leave the sewer. So to me, there's definitely something going on with rejuvenation here and Corey's hand healing itself. I think that's pretty much the last point that I wanted to make. Wait, I do have one more thing to say though. One last point I want to make as well is that after Corey stabs himself in the neck, number one, right? Why would he stab himself in the throat unless he knew he was going to be fine? He probably most likely knew he wasn't going to die from stabbing himself in the neck. And what proves me to be correct is that when Michael goes back to him to grab the mask in the end of the film, in the final act, he wakes up and grabs Michael's hand and actually manages to struggle with Michael over the knife. Like, kind of to say, like, he wanted to grab the knife and he wanted to be, Michael or something like that. And then Michael kind of stares into his eyes again like he did in the beginning, but this time his eyes are blacked out. We don't see Michael's eyes. And he's staring at Corey, and then he snaps his neck. So that's another thing I wanted to mention is, why would Corey stab himself in the throat? Why would he do that? Why would he stab himself in the throat unless he knew he was going to be fine? that just proves that he definitely got something from Michael, some type of hacks from Michael Myers himself that made him confident in stabbing himself in the throat. And I also have a theory as well that what I like to use my headcanon and say about that whole end scene thing is, if you look at when Michael is staring at Corey as he's choking him on the ground and they're wrestling over the knife, the same music that plays, the same eerie tone that played earlier when he looked at Corey for the first time, is playing in the background in that scene. And I feel like something definitely was going on there as well. The way it was shot, the way this film was directed, there's definitely way more to this than meets the eye, in my opinion. I feel like either Michael gave Corey the remainder of his strength, and that's why he lost to Laurie, or he took back the remainder that he gave to Corey, and he took the strength for himself to go fight Laurie. It's one of the two. Honestly, I feel like he passed on the rest of the shape into Corey before that and then snapped his neck, because you see how weak Michael is. And to me, I just use that as my headcanon. That's just my own personal, what I believe, happened as to why he was killed so easily by Laurie Strode in the end, is because he gave the remainder of that shape to Corey for him to carry the full, just to carry on, and the full shape, or whatever you want to call it. So, these are all the different points that I wanted to share with you guys in this video, because I feel like, people just blatantly, I don't know if people are just not paying attention to the film, or if they're just going off of what the director said and that alone, but this movie clearly shows otherwise. That Michael's definitely supernatural for sure, okay? This movie proves that Michael's supernatural. Everything that occurs in this film, since the moment that Corey looked into Michael's eyes, it all screams supernatural occurrence to me. The whole healing factor, the whole thing with him looking in the mirror, the whole thing with Jeremy's father and Laurie saying they see Michael into his eyes, all that, I just think that Corey's heart he had so much hatred and rage in his heart at the time that he allowed the evil to consume him. Hence why he said to Jamie Lee Curtis, hence why he said to her in that one scene where he's talking to Laurie on the stairwell, he says, "You should have gave into that feeling you had when you looked into his eyes." That means Corey gave into the feeling that he had when he looked into Michael's eyes. And clearly that also helps out my point, which I said earlier, which was that Michael saw Corey as a good host because of everything he was going through at the time, and that's why he let him go, and that's why he hid behind the wall, and everything happened the way it did. Honestly, my version, I think, makes the most sense as to why Corey went down this downward spiral, because I just don't buy the fact that someone could just be a serial killer off of one bad thing happening in their life. I feel like if you're gonna kill somebody, that's already in you from the day that you're born, for you to be capable of murdering someone. I don't think that you could just if you never had an interest or thoughts about doing that you could just wake up one day and start stabbing people in the throat. I don't think that's how it works. I just don't think that's how it works. I definitely think that Corey was infected by Michael Myers, and it just doesn't make sense to say that he's not supernatural and that Michael is human when he's obviously transferred something into Corey. And also too, for the people that really don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween films, the reason why people don't like those films is because Michael is human in those films and he's not supernatural. So it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, wait a minute, you guys don't want to say that Michael is supernatural, but at the same time you don't like the Rob Zombie Halloween films. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video. I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, and I know this video wasn't really scripted and it was kind of all over the place, but if you stayed this long, I really appreciate you. Thank you for staying this long and listening to me kind of go on a long rant on my thoughts about this film. But I think that people should really consider the points I've made here, and hopefully this will change a few people's opinion on Michael being supernatural, and also change people's opinion on what was actually going on in Halloween Ends. And to me, it, like I said before, it just makes sense, and it helps me enjoy the film just a tad bit more. I don't love this film at all. It's definitely in my low rankings, but I did enjoy the film a little more after watching it a few more times and kind of understanding where David Gordon Green was trying to go. I think he was going for more of that slow burn psychological type of vibe, but he just did not execute it right, and it was just executed poorly. I think that the only way, I think this movie would have been way better and probably up in one of my favorite Halloween films in the franchise if Michael Myers was more present and if Corey and Michael had more impact on the story together instead of it just all being focused on Corey. I feel like if they split the balance of screen time and the balance of the story between Michael and Corey, this movie would have been one of the greatest Halloween films in my opinion. But there was just not enough Michael here, and nobody wants to come to a Halloween film to focus on a whole new character for the majority of the film. And with that risk being such a high risk alone, I feel like Michael should have definitely been in the film more. But that's my opinion. These are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you still believe that Michael is just human and that he's not supernatural? Or are you like me and you think that he actually is supernatural, and you actually agree with my point on Michael being supernatural in this trilogy? So thanks for watching. I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and peace out.